Without water, people, animals and plants die. Life simply cannot exist. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said the best charity is a drink of water, and that's why I'm raising money to bring water to Gambia. We have already created 51 boreholes with your help in remote villages, not wells that the old and the weak struggle with, boreholes that can be accessed by the turning of a tap. Donate using the link in the description. Assalamu alaikum guys, and welcome to another episode of Smile to Jannah. You may or may not have heard of a story that broke in Australia earlier this year, I think it was this year or last year, in which they claimed that there was a caravan laden with explosives, inside which there was a list of synagogues and threatening anti-Semitic messages. A couple of days ago it turns out that that was a hoax. Very few of you will be surprised, but the cherry on the cake was the police knew this. Maybe the Zionists required some extra time so they could weaponize it to justify the crimes that they are doing. If that's not all, the article goes on to say that this group that had orchestrated this hoax had done numerous other hoaxes in Australia as well. So a lot of things that you probably had heard and seen and were forced to condemn, and if they were actual attacks, of course you should condemn them, but I think after what I'm going to tell you, we need to take things with a pinch of salt and not react straight away. Here you guys can see on the screen a NAZI salute was done. People naturally were concerned, but it later turns out that this individual was indeed a Zionist and was just trying to stage something just so she could get some sympathy for her people. Number 2, here was a swastika that was painted in New York by, it turned out, the guy who owns the house. Yes, another Zionist. And here you saw it being done here in the UK, in Glasgow. Again, a guy did it to his own home, claiming that it was a hate attack. Next we move on to a personal favourite of mine, if we are allowed to have favourites, because all of them are just so wacky in their own way. This guy claimed to have been stabbed in an anti-Semitic attack. Yes, very serious. But it turned out he stabbed himself. Apparently, there were no eyewitnesses, there was very little evidence, and the Apple Watch that he was wearing, the police used that data to see when his heart rate spiked, and they used that as evidence also to conclude that he made it up. So those of you with Apple Watches and technology thinking, oh, this is just going to help me, let this be a lesson. Number 4, the Daily Telegraph was doing a documentary in which, I can't make this stuff up, even though they were trying to make it up. They tried to stage an anti-Semitic attack. A live one, yeah? Trying to incite the shop owner to elicit a response. Bang! Anti-Semitism. Beautiful footage in 4K. However, the guy did not bite. He did not play ball, and they had to leave the premises with their tail between their legs. And here is a montage of a bunch of other hoaxes that have also taken place. There's just so many, guys, yeah? In fact, the video was delayed because I just kept finding one story after another. Here's one in France. Yes, in France, the guy was caught. Another one in a US cafe in which they said this is the really massive one that we've seen. It's ridiculous. People started panicking. Turns out that that was fake as well. Begs the question, what else have we been told? That's a lie. That's fake. I'll leave that to you guys. Why would you have the time on your hands to make up attacks if your community is being harmed day in, day out? The reality is, they're not. Anti-Semitism has been weaponized, and I say it again, to justify the crimes that are being done in Palestine. That's number 1. Number 2 is when there are no real enemies, you have to create an enemy and a threat. False flag attacks. We know Israel is famous for these. If you don't believe me, Google the Lavon affair. Yes, or Operation Susanna. It was a false flag attack. in which Israel was trying to gain sympathy from the Western nations. And why do they feel the need to create a state of unrest and enmity? Because these people understand and realize that people don't hate Jews. They only hate the genocide taking place over there, and they hate the fact that their land is being taken. That's all it is. Yeah. If the land thing is settled, then you'll notice it will be like it was before in Palestine, where Christians, Muslims and Jews lived together in harmony. And lastly, guys, is doing these attacks helping to free the hostages? Is it helping to defend yourself against 4-year-old children? Yes, what you're seeing on the screen is a real thing. This was actually published by them. Yes, it's about a 4-year-old kid. That's Israel for you, ladies and gentlemen. The only way they can justify what's going on is by creating a narrative and blaming Jews. There are many Jews that have a problem with what's going on there. They don't believe that they are allowed to go into that land. There are others that openly criticize Israel, but they are trying to conflate and get this criticism of Israel to antisemitism. Even though, ironically, Palestinians are Semites as well, but they get excluded from that definition. So, we're not going to allow you to conflate Judaism with criticism of Israel, colonization, and occupation committed by Israel. The two are very distinct, and there are powers that be that are trying to conflate the two. They are even trying to do this in the law as well. Yes, indeed, heavily trying to reinforce this. But educate yourselves and don't fall into the trap. Let's leave it there, guys. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.